पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ईशावास्यमिदगुं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा गृध्ः कस्य स्विद्धनम्। ॐ कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजीविषेच्छतगुं समाः एवं त्वयि नान्यथेतोऽस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे। असुर्यानामते लोका अन्धेन तमसावृताः तागस्ते प्रीत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये केचात्महनो जनाः। ॐ अनेजदेकं मनसो जवीयो नैनद्देवा आप्नुवन् पूर्वमर्षत् तद्धावतो ज्ञानत्येति तिष्ठत्तस्मिन्नपो मातरिश्वा दधाति। ॐ तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तद्वान्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य ततु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः। ॐ यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मन्येवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते। ॐ यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कः शोक एकत्वमनुपश्यतः। ॐ सपर्यगाच्छुक्रमकायमव्रणमस्नाविरगुं शुद्धमपापविद्धं कविर्मनीषी परिभूः स्वयं भूर्याथा तथ्यतोऽर्थान् व्यदधाच्छाश्वतीभ्यः समाभ्यः। अन्धन्तमः प्रविशन्ति ये विद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमोय विद्याया गुङ्रताः। अन्यदेवाहुर्विद्ययान्यदाहुरविद्यया इति शुश्रुमधीराणान्येनस्तद्विचचक्षिरे विद्याञ्च विद्याञ्च यस्तद्विदोभयगुंसः अविद्यया मृत्युं त्यक्त्वा विद्ययामृतमश्नुते। अन्धन्तमः प्रविशन्ति ये सम्भूतिमुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमोय सम्भूत्यागुंरताः। अन्यदेवाहुः सम्भवादन्यदाहुरसम्भवात् इति शुश्रुमधीराणान्येनस्तद्विचचक्षिरे सम्भूतिं च विनाशं च यस्तद्विदोभयगुंसः विनाशेन मृत्युं त्यक्त्वा सम्भूत्यामृतमश्नुते। ॐ हिरण्मयेन पात्रेण सत्यस्यापि हितं मुखम् तत्त्वं पूषन्न पावृणु सत्यधर्माय दिष्टये ॐ पूषन्नेकर्षेयमसूर्यप्राजापत्यव्यूहरश्मीन् समूहतेजो यत्ते रूपं कल्याणतमन्तत्ते पश्यामि योऽसावसौ पुरुषः सोऽहमस्मि ॐ वायुरनिलममृतमथेदं भस्मान्तगुं शरीरम् ॐ क्रतो स्मर कृतज्ञ स्मर क्रतो स्मर कृतज्ञ स्मर ॐ अग्नेनय सुपथाराये अस्मान् विश्वानि देववयुनानि विद्वान् युयोध्यस्मज्जुहुराणमेनो भूयिष्ठान्ते नम उक्तिं विधेम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः
So today we are going to start with 4 syntheses that have happened in India, in our Indian spiritual and philosophical history. I'll explain what synthesis is. Then we'll talk about the importance of the Upanishads, how important they are. You have the reference of Sri Aurobindo. It's a beautiful para, a little tough maybe. We'll try and go through it slowly. We'll explain what I can. Then we'll speak about the importance of Isha Upanishad, because there are 100 Upanishads. Why Isha Upanishad is the most important Upanishad. We'll talk about the importance of Isha Upanishad per se. Then we'll do a chanting of Isha Upanishad. And then we'll start with the first movement. There are 4 movements in Isha Upanishad. The first is the first 3 verses, and then the next 4 verses, then the next 7 verses, and then the next 4 verses. So in these 3 days, we plan to cover the first movement, which is the first 3 verses. Okay? I'd like to say one thing, that the Upanishads are tough, easier than the Vedas, but still they are tough. And Sri Aurobindo always says that it is best to try and understand from the soul rather than from the mind. When we try and, grapple with the words and grapple with the meaning, of course, it's a very natural thing, because the mind wants to understand. And if it doesn't understand, it grapples. It doesn't like the fog. We'll try and grapple, but not too much. Let us strive more to be able to soak in from the soul, because it's something that is very experiential, all the Upanishads. We begin with the 4 syntheses that have happened in India. See, the spiritual history of India is ancient, as we all know, and complex. So ancient that it cannot be dated. We all know, and that is a problem, because we don't have dates and we don't have written history. So नकारा जाता है, लोग बोलते हैं ये तो थी ही नहीं. It may just be some kind of a storytelling. That's a problem. But at that time, there was no written history. So that is a problem with our spiritual history, but we know it was because it was remembered by memory and then it was noted down several centuries later. In India, there have been four syntheses: the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Tantra. Now, this is what whatever I'm going to be speaking today is what Sri Aurobindo has written in the Synthesis of Yoga. Synthesis actually means a putting together. In Sanskrit, it's in for poetry, it's also called samanvaya. Lots of poetry is put together. We say samanvaya. And it is also called samhita, an anthology, right? See, first let's start with the Vedas because that's the oldest samhita. The Vedas are intuitive samhitas. They are samhitas, intuitions of the experiences of the rishis. Not only the experiences of the rishis, but also their prayers, very deep meditative prayers. They were revelations, drishti, inspirations, shruti, intuitions, and intuitive discrimination. Sarama, these are all gods which have been rivers, they've been called in the Vedas. Shruti hai, Sarama hai. These are all, uh, faculties that we can develop in ourselves, which the rishis naturally had. And the Vedas are symbolic. In fact, that age was called a symbolic age. For example, go is the cow is called, go is used and it is understood as the cow, but actually go stands for light, light of knowledge. So whenever the Vedas talk about go, it was understood, for instance, by Max Mueller, who was trying to explain that these Indians are so ancient, they are praying to cows and horses. But go actually was a symbol for the light of knowledge. The horse, which we prayed to, was a symbol of power. Don't we say horsepower? So the horse, when the rishis prayed to, was actually the horsepower that they were praying to, the power. And similarly, apa or waters was used as a symbol for planes of consciousness. They were shrutis or mantras that were heard by the rishis of the Vedic times. They could hear. The drishtas, they are called drishtas, they could even see. And when they were deep in thought and meditation, and these Vedic mantras were passed on through memorization from generation to generation. And then who came on the scene? Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa, or Veda Vyasa as he is popularly called. And then he put together all that was memorized in the memory of all those rishis. He put them together by the help of his heir and four disciples. The four disciples were rishis. Their names were Pela, Jaimini, Vaishampayan, and Sumantu. Pela was made in charge of Rigveda. Jaimini was made in charge of Samaveda. Vaishampayan of the Yajurveda, and Sumantu of Atharva Veda. This was the synthesis of the Vedas. Then we come centuries later. Anmol would know how many centuries later did the Upanishads come.
Not really specified,
No.
but at least a few thousand years.
A few thousand years later, the Upanishads came. Now, how are the Upanishads a synthesis? The Upanishads are a spiritual synthesis of the knowledge of the Vedas and the spiritual realizations of the rishis who wrote the Upanishads, right? So it is a synthesis of the Vedic time and the new knowledge that the rishis of the Upanishadic times experienced and what they heard and what they saw. These rishis would also be traveling far and wide, gathering knowledge and reading the Vedas and doing Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasan. And through the synthesis of both these, they wrote the mantras of the Upanishads. right? See, Rishi Yagyavalk was the seer of the Isha Upanishad, right? He picked up the Isha Upanishad's verses from the last part of the Vedas. And his story and other stories are part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the longest Upanishads. Similarly, the Chandogya Upanishad has many stories, stories of Narad and Sanat Kumar, the story of Aruni and Shvetaketu, and many other stories. Someday we'll just do a session on the stories of the Upanishads. Very interesting stories. Raikwa, the cartwheel driver. Very interesting stories in the Upanishads. And each one of them is a piece of learning, real deep learning. The focus of the Upanishads was basically on Brahman. Those of us who have studied Vedanta or have studied these scriptures would understand what we mean by Brahman. So basically, the focus of the Upanishads is on Brahman. And the Upanishads take for granted that the reader or the hearer has already done much sadhana before and maybe has had spiritual experiences also, right? Therefore, they are written as very short, pithy, short sentences, sometimes no connection between the first part of the sentence and the second part, no connection between the second part of the first sentence and the first part of the second line. So it's, but the Upanishads, the Upanishadic rishis expected that the reader has already had past experiences, has already done some bit of spiritual reading, and will understand. Now, they are written in such a manner, and sometimes they are metrical in meter, and sometimes they are not metrical. They're not in meter, and yet they are the highest poetry. So, but fortunately for us, the Isha Upanishad that we are going to be doing is Sri Aurobindo's first love. So Sri Aurobindo kept coming back to it again and again during his sadhana. And he explained it very well. So whatever we are going to be speaking is what we have studied from Sri Aurobindo. So this was the second synthesis, the Upanishads. The third synthesis is the synthesis of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual and intellectual synthesis, right? And it is almost regarded as the 13th Upanishad. The Gita is at a much closer level to us. And that is the reason for its universality. The Gita can also be called a synthesis because it contains the essence of the knowledge of the Upanishads and it adds to it. It takes from the Upanishads and it adds to it. Sri Aurobindo writes in the essays on the Gita that the Gita passes boldly beyond the Vedas and the Upanishads. Sri Aurobindo says that the Gita passes boldly beyond the Upanishads and beyond the Vedas and the Upanishads, right? Secondly, an important part of the Bhagavad Gita is that it synthesizes three very important philosophies. It synthesizes the Vedanta, which we very commonly hear, Vedanta whose goal is Brahman, right? It synthesizes the Vedanta with the Sankhya whose goal is Purusha, and it synthesizes these two with Yoga, whose goal is Ishvara. Someday, maybe in the course of our studies, we'll understand what we mean by Brahman, Purusha, and Ishvara, right? Sri Aurobindo comes back to these three terms very often. So, there's a beautiful mantra which was also given to me by Anmol. Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopal Nandana Partha Vatsa Sudhi Bhokta Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat. This mantra says that all our Upanishads are like cows, and the milker is Sri Krishna himself, the cowherd. And Parth or Arjuna is the calf. And men, all of you, men of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the supreme nectar of the Gita is the milk, right? So this was the third synthesis, the Bhagavad Gita. The fourth synthesis, I don't know much about it. So I've just written one sentence about it, but Sri Aurobindo has called it the fourth synthesis, which is the Tantra. The Tantra is also a synthesis, and is based more on the feminine principle of the universe, that is Shakti. Before starting on Isha Upanishad, I always like to read a bit from Sri Aurobindo because then it brings a lot of it. The atmosphere gets set if we read something from Sri Aurobindo. So this text is from Kena and other Upanishads, and this is where Sri Aurobindo is speaking about the importance of the Upanishads. The Upanishads stand out from the dim background of Vedic antiquity like stupendous rock cathedrals of thought, hewn, hewn means carved out, the ancient hills by a race of giant builders, the secret of whose inspiration and strength has passed away with them into the supreme. They are at once scripture, philosophy, and seer poetry. For even those of them that dispense with the metrical form are prose poems of a rhythmically mystic thought. So even those Upanishads which have dispensed with, which are not using meter, which are not rhythmic, they still, their thought is so poetic. They are so mystic that they still are rhythmic without the meter, right? But whether a scripture, philosophical theosophy, theosophy means religious and philosophical systems, when something is being put into a system, it's called theosophy. So, but whether as scripture, philosophical theosophy, or literature, there is nothing like them in ancient, medieval, or modern. In Occidental, which means countries of the West, or Oriental, countries of the East, in Egyptian, Chaldean, Semitic, or Mongolian creation. Semitic is people who speak Hebrew and Arabic, right? They are unique in style, structure, and motive, entirely sui generis. Sui generis means of its own kind. After them, there were philosophical poems, aphorisms, verse, and prose treatises. Treatises when something is written in a very systematic fashion, systematically written. After them, there were philosophic poems, aphorisms, verse, and prose treatises in great number, sutras, karikas, gitas, their intellectual children. But these are a human progeny, very different in type from their immortal ancestors. Pseudo Upanishads, pretentious, those who wrote and said, ye bhi Upanishad hai. So, pseudo Upanishads, there have been in plenty, 100 or more of them. Some have arrived at a passable aping of the more external features of the type, but always betray themselves by the pseudo style, the artificial falsetto, the rasping creak of the machine, and others are pastiches. You know what is a pastiche? When it's cut paste from different places and put together. For instance, I hate to say it, but Radha Krishnan's thesis was picked up from so many places, just put together, plagiarized. Others are fakes. The great Upanishads stand out always, serene, grand, inimitable, with their puissant means having great power, and living breath, with that phrase which goes rolling out 1,000 echoes, with that faultless, spontaneous sureness of the inevitable expression, with that packed yet easy compression of wide and rich wisdom into a few revelatory syllables by which they justify their claim to be the divine word. Neither this inspiration nor this technique has been renewed or repeated in later human achievement. This is the beauty of the Upanishads in the words of Sri Aurobindo. Now, what is the importance of the Upanishads? Sri Aurobindo writes in the Renaissance in India, he says, and I quote, it is a kind of poetry word of vision, rhythm of the spirit that has not been written before or after. The Upanishads are the highest and best literature in India, from the earliest times to the present day. They are records of knowledge with greater clarity than the Vedas, because the Vedas are very symbolic and difficult to understand, and the Upanishads are less symbolic. The Upanishads are superb poetry, considering the meter, the rhythm, the arrangement of words, the style, and substance. See, to judge any poetry, what do we have to, first of all, when we read a poetry, how do we decide that the poetry is really good? What do we see in it? The substance, exactly, the thought. So the substance is the most important. And we can see in the Upanishads what level the substance is, the thought. Then the style of the poetry. The style of the poetry must be appropriate to the substance of the poetry, right? There should be harmony between the substance and the style. For example, if there's a poem on Maharana Pratap, it must be written in Veer Ras. Then the rhythm of the poetry. The rhythm of the poetry should be of the highest value, right? Someday we'll call Sampatji and we'll listen from him about Chanda Vigyan. He explains it so beautifully. You know, the rhythm, and it has been turned into a science by our Vedic rishis. So we must please remind me one day we'll invite him over and understand Chanda Vigyan. So when we read the poetry of the Upanishads in this light, we realize that it is the highest and best poetry in the Indian subcontinent. Why Indian subcontinent, I would say, in the world. But what does Upanishad mean? Upanishad has two meanings. First of all, let us look at the word Upanishad. Upa means near, and Nishad means sitting. So Upanishad means knowledge which was received by sitting at the feet of an enlightened person, their guru. The Katha Upanishad has a verse, very nice verse. Uttishtha Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Arise, awaken. Having reached the enlightened ones, don't stop till the goal is reached. And who used this most of all? Swami Vivekanand. He popularized this slogan from the Katha Upanishad as a message to the world. He Uttishtha Jagrata. Utho, awaken, arise, and stop not till the goal is reached. And he wanted to awaken the world from the state of hypnosis. So, what does it say? It says that first of all, become aware that there is such a need of such a knowledge within you. There is a need which you're not aware of. Then you go and look for an enlightened person and then exhort him for knowledge. Like a guru. See, the Upanishads are like a guru because they dispel the darkness that is within us. One of the very beautiful shlokas on a mantra for explaining the importance of a guru. Ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha. I, blinded by the darkness of ignorance, had my eyes opened by the Guru, who passed through my eyes the rod dipped in the collyrium of knowledge. So my eyes were closed, and they were closed by the darkness of ignorance. And what did my Guru do? He took the kajal of knowledge and he put it through my eyes and awakened me, right? And actually, the scriptures could become our Guru. Sri Aurobindo says in the first chapter of the Synthesis of Yoga that who is our real Guru? In the first chapter of Synthesis, he says that our real Guru is our soul. Hamari Atma, Hamari Guru hai. And the work of the outside teacher is only to take the student up to the experience of the soul within, right? And once that work is done, the work of the outside teacher is over because now you have been led to your real Guru. right? The real guru is our soul. And our effort all through our life should be to try and reach that point where we are able to experience the presence of the soul, our real guru. Now, regarding the Upanishads, there are approximately 100 odd Upanishads. Out of these, there are 12 principal Upanishads and 10 most important ones. 100, but 12 principal Upanishads and 10 most important ones are Isha, Kena, Katha, Brihadranya, Prashna, Taitreya, Aitreya, Mundaka, Mandukya, Kaivalya, and Neela Rudra. These are the ones that I know. Huh? Shvetashvatara. The Upanishads are separate sections at the end of the different Vedas. At the end of different Vedas, some sections have been taken and put into and called the Upanishad with some additions from the Rishi himself. Mostly three Vedas, Rig Veda, Samaveda, and Yajurveda. That is why the Upanishads are also called the Vedanta, because that which comes at the end of the Vedas. Right? Now, once I feel we should read the full Isha Upanishad, you all have a book.
Yeah.
So we can all read Upanishad with the recording of Gaya, so the atmosphere gets charged. It's an 8-minute reading. It'll just set the stage.
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते शान्ति 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 ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वै यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा वृथः कस्य स्विद्धनम् कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जीविषेशतं समाः एवं त्वयि नान्यथेतोऽस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे असुर्यानामते लोका अन्धेन तमसा वृताः तागस्ते प्रेत्याभिगच्छन्ति के चात्मनो जनाः अनेजनेकं मनस्तो जवीयो नयनत्येवा आप्नुवन् पूर्वमर्षत् तद्धावतो ज्ञानत्येति तिष्ठत्तस्मिन्नपो मातरिष्वा दधाति तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तद्वन्तिके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तत्तु सर्वस्यास्य बाह्यतः यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मन्येवानुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु चात्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतान्यात्मैवाभूद्विजानतः तत्र को मोहः शोकः एकत्वमनुपश्यतः सपर्यगात् शुक्रमकायमव्रणमस्नाविरगुं शुद्धमपावविद्धम् कविर्मनीषी परिभूः स्वयं भूर्याधातथ्यतोऽर्थान् व्यदधाच्छाश्वतीभ्यः समाभ्यः अन्धन्तमप्रविशन्ति विद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इह ते तमोय उभिद्यायागुंरताः अन्यदेवाहुर्विद्यया पुरविद्यया इति शुश्रुमधीरानान्येनस्तद्विचक्षिरे विद्याञ्च विद्याञ्च यस्तद्वेदो हयपुंसः अविद्यया मृत्युं तीर्त्वा विद्ययामृतमश्नुते अन्धन्तमप्रविशन्ति सम्भूतिमुपासते तद्बभूय इव ते तमोय सम्भूत्यामुरताः अन्यदेवाहुसम्भवादन्यदाहुरसम्भवात् इति शुश्रुमधीराणायेनस्तद्विचक्षिरे सम्भूतिं च विनाशं च यस्तद्वेदो हयपुंसः विनाशेन मृत्युं तीर्त्वा सम्भूत्यामृतमश्नुते हिरण्मयेन पात्रेण सत्यस्य हितं मुखम् तत्त्वं पूषन्नपार्जुनसत्यधर्माय दृष्टये पुरुषन्नेकर्षेयमसूर्यप्राजापत्यव्यूहरश्मी समूहतेजो यत्ते रूपं कल्याणतमं तत्ते पश्यामि योऽसावसौ पुरुषः सोऽहमस्मि वायुरनिलममृतमथेदं अस्मात् शरीरम् क्रतोस्मर कृतगस्मर क्रतोस्मर कृतगस्मर अग्नेनय सुपथाराये अस्मान् विश्वानि देववैनानि विद्वान् युयोध्यस्मज्जुहुराणवेनो भूयिष्ठान्तेन मुक्तिं विधेम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ हरिः
Okay, this is a recording of Gaia, British lady. So now we'll just understand the importance of the Isha Upanishad, and then we'll read from the book, The Plan of the Upanishads. We'll understand it, and then we'll do the first verse of the first movement. That itself will take some time. Yeah, we have time, right, everybody? Okay. So importance of the Upanishads. So first of all, what has Sri Aurobindo said about the importance of Isha Upanishad? Sri Aurobindo has said that even if the rest of Indian scriptures were not to be there for some reason, all the rest of the Indian scriptures, suppose they were not there for some reason, even then, just the first verse of the Isha Upanishad is sufficient to protect Indian culture. So important the first verse of the Isha Upanishad is, right? And we'll be doing that today. Then Isha Upanishad is a text, as I said earlier, which takes one from experience to a deeper experience. But when does that happen? Only when we are approaching the Isha Upanishad from the silence of our being, right? Isha Upanishad leads to the experience of the underlying oneness and unity. We are all living in a divided kind of a world, but there is an underlying oneness and underlying unity which escapes us more often than not. And Isha Upanishad keeps reminding us of that unity, right? We'll be talking about the unity more so in verses 4, 5, 6, 7, the second movement. But of course, even in the first, unity is one of the main aspects of Isha Upanishad. Unity, what is unity? It is a harmonious coming together. And it's not even a coming together, it is basically there. And we feel as if it's a coming together, but we're actually all united. There is actually one physical. My body is not different from your body or from her because there is one physical, there is one emotional consciousness, and there is one mental consciousness. Every time, even one negative thought actually brings down the mental consciousness of the universe. Even a thought is able to bring down the mental consciousness, the level of the mental consciousness, a notch down, right? Even an act, one wrong act, and we are bringing the consciousness of the universe down. Such is the oneness of the universe. So, these experiences that we will experience as we go through the Isha Upanishad are far more important than the word or the expression. Isha Upanishad takes us from light to greater light. And one of the most important parts of the Isha Upanishad, which is not there in many other Upanishads, is that it reconciles the fundamental opposites of thought. What are the different opposites that this Upanishad has reconciled? It has reconciled God and the world. Right in the first verse, we'll be doing that. God and the world. Because most philosophies will explain God is up there, world is down here. But Isha Upanishad clearly explains that God and the world are one. There is oneness, there is no illusion. All this is the God. Isha Vasyam idam sarvam. He is here, habitating, living here. This is him. The other opposites that the Ishavasya Upanishad reconciles is renunciation and enjoyment. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. That you renounce and you enjoy. So it is not that you renounce and then you sit like a Babaji. You renounce and you live in this world, and bhunjita, like Bhaga, the god of enjoyment. Another fundamental opposite that it reconciles is action and internal freedom. In the second verse, the one and the many, the being and its becomings, the passive divine impersonality and its active divine personality, the knowledge and the ignorance, and the becoming and the non-becoming, life on earth and beyond, and the supreme immortality. All these are reconciled by the Isha Upanishad. Now let us understand some more things about Isha Upanishad. So Isha Upanishad is the essence of all Upanishads, right? It is one of the smallest Upanishads, just 18 verses. It is the last chapter of Shukla Yajurved. The seer of the Isha Upanishad is Rishi Yagyavalk. And Rishi Yagyavalk ki kahani is given in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And as I told you earlier, Isha Upanishad was Sri Aurobindo's first love. He kept coming back to it and writing more. And then he kept coming back and he would write more. So many commentaries he's written on it. And the reason is, what is the reason that he was so close to Isha Upanishad? Because this Upanishad comes closest to his philosophy. What is his philosophy? His philosophy is that the manifestation, this universe that the divine has become, is not cut off from the reality. That reality and this universe are both given equal importance in his philosophy, and similarly so in the Isha Upanishad. The normal trend of today's Vedanta, unfortunately, is to regard the permanent, the immutable, the unchanging, the non-manifest, timeless, कि वो तो reality है. But ये जो phenomenal world है, ये illusion है. So that is something that the Isha Upanishad clearly says, no, this too is real, right? The power to manifest is a feature of the Supreme. He has the power to either manifest or bring back the manifestation within himself, pralay jisko kehte hain, or remain unmanifest, nahi karenge manifest, meri ichha, right? Just like somebody has the power to sing, can sing beautifully. Now, whether that person wants to sing or wants to remain silent, both are his powers. Both are simultaneous in him. He may want to sing, that is his potential. He may want to remain quiet. It is his potential. And it is not that the singing comes out of the silence. They are both two potentialities that the person has, right?
So the universe and the manifest both together. You see, let's just take a simple example. All of us wanted to come here. And we wanted to experience this divine wisdom. And so all of us had this desire that we come here, and now we are experiencing it. Now, to say that, to the word that we say, that the two pieces that come together is that, when you give up, which is the term renounce. You renounce and then you enjoy it. Just coming to on oneness with that. So we still wanted to come here and we're enjoying it. The only thing that we have to renounce is that we did this, right? And what I seem to understand is that if you're coming from this, that look, my Lord, you want as this instrument to attend this, I've come here. I've renounced. It's actually you, right? The only, the thought is earlier I was thinking, oh, it's me. Yogesh wants to come and attend, right? Is that what it is to reconcile the two, to renounce and enjoy?
See, in a way you can say that you've renounced whatever else you could have done at this time, right? You've renounced whatever else you could have done at this time and you've come. But when the Isha Upanishad talks about renunciation, it says, Mike Lilina, it says that whatever you're going to be doing, you offer to the divine. You invite the divine, you remember the divine, you offer to the divine that I am going for this interaction and I offer it to you, you come along with me. You listen from my ears and you make me understand. I'm offering this whole thing to you. So the onus goes on to the divine. That is a renunciation. Actually, the word that I like to use is the word offer, that you offer it. We'll talk about offering a lot through these first three verses, especially in the first and second verses, right?
It is all ordained by the Lord. Otherwise, it would not have happened. Something would have come, some impediment or something. I feel it's all been ordained. That's the way I
No,
feel
no,
that way.
you're absolutely right, Auntie, that everything is ordained by the Lord, no doubt. But because we do not know what He has ordained, so we have a choice. At this point, you had a choice that you would have rested in the afternoon. Then you would have said, Arey, God has ordained it that I am going to take my afternoon snooze. So they can't put it on him because we don't know what he's ordained. So we have been given the choice to choose at our highest level. At every moment, we have choices. What after we have chosen something, what will happen to us, that is ordained. हमने चूज कर लिया, उसके बाद जो होगा वो ordained है. But the result is his. But choose तो हम ही ने किया ना, कि हम आएंगे, हम यहाँ बैठे हैं, leaving something else. So that choice we'll have to till we reach that point where we can hear the divine's will, that we know for sure that Shakti is doing this through me. Then that is also a stage. And many people have reached that stage where they're aware that Shakti is working through them. But we all still need to climb much further, right? But yes, it is ordained, much is ordained after we have made the choice. Now, division of the Isha Upanishad, I've already told you. Now let's open our books to plan of the Upanishad, page 11. The Upanishads, being vehicles of illumination, we'll read through the plan of Upanishads and then I'll explain it. The Upanishads, being vehicles of illumination and not of instruction. Illumination, not instruction, right? Were composed for seekers who had already a general familiarity with the ideas of the Vedic and Vedantic seers, and even some personal experience of the truths on which they were founded. Dispense in their style with express transitions of thought and the development of implied or subordinate notions. I'll just finish it and then explain it, yeah? Every verse in the Isha Upanishad reposes on a number of ideas implicit in the text, but nowhere set forth explicitly. The reasoning also that supports its conclusions is suggested by the words not expressly conveyed to the intelligence. The reader, or rather the hearer, was supposed to proceed from light to light, confirming his intuitions and verifying by his experience, not submitting the ideas to the judgment of the logical reason. To the modern mind, this method is invalid and inapplicable. It is necessary to present the ideas of the Upanishad in their completeness, underline the suggestions, supply the necessary transitions, and bring out the suppressed but always implicit reasoning. And this is exactly what Sri Aurobindo has done. Wherever the discursive method has been dispensed with, the explanation between one statement and the other, the connection has been dispensed with by the Rishi. Because he thought, ये तो जो लोग सुन रहे हैं, जो पढ़ रहे हैं, वो तो already समझते हैं. That connection has been made by Sri Aurobindo. He has explained this, and he's explained the connection between them. So he has not left anything that ये तो मालूम है, right? The central idea of the Upanishad, which is a reconciliation and harmony of fundamental opposites, is worked out symmetrically in 4 successive movements of thought. We've already said that. Now, just to explain the first paragraph. See, there is one method which is called the discursive transition of thought. What is discursive transition of thought? Where you have one thought, you have another thought, and between them the link is given clearly. A is taller than B, and B is taller than C. So if I say A is taller than C, it has been explained the in-between. A is taller than B and B is taller than C, therefore A is taller than C. But that in-between has been left out in the Upanishads, but Sri Aurobindo has explained it very clearly. Because the Upanishads only state the illumination that they have received. उनको जैसे जैसे आया वो लिखते, I don't know, तब लिखते थे क्या? Upanishadic time में तो लिखते थे, right? Because that's, I'm not sure. The hearer लिखा है, हाँ. Like, somewhere it is written that sa kamayet ekoham bahusyam. Sa kamayet, he desired. What did he desire? May I become many. Ekoham bahusyam. Now, where are the transitions in between? Who is he? How could he desire? How did he become aware that he could become many? By the power of self-recognition. Ye sara kuch is dispensed with. You are supposed to understand. Just an example. This I've explained. So now let's let's come to page 11 again, first movement. You've got it? Page 11, first movement. In the first, a basis is laid down by the idea of the one and stable spirit inhabiting and governing a universe of movement and of the forms of movement. Verse 1, line 1. See, the first line of the first verse, what does it tell us? It tells us that there is one spirit, one God, not only living in this universe, but he's also governing it. Not only is he governing it, he has actually become all this. He has become this universe. He's inhabited it, so he's living in it as Purusha, and he's Ishvara. He's also governing it, right? This is the first line. On this conception, the rule of a divine life for man is founded. So in line 2, we are given कि कैसे जीना ये जिंदगी. In line 2, enjoyment of all by renunciation of all. By how? Through the exclusion of all desires. So on this belief, the rule of a divine life has been founded by the Rishi that we must enjoy the universe. Bhaga, Bhunjita. But how? Only after we have offered. What all can we offer? We have 3 faculties. Cognitive, we can think. Affective, we can feel emotions. And cognitive, we can do actions, volition. Besides these 3, there's nothing else that we do. You can see everything that you do, it will come into the parameter of thinking, feeling, and doing. So if all the 3, we make it a point that we are inviting the divine into it, offering to the divine, and inviting him into it and saying, you do through me. I just want to become an instrument. निमित्त मात्र बनना चाहता हूँ. बार बार हर चीज में. Then वो धागा बहुत strong हो जाता है. And then what he's actually whispering into us, this is what I want you to do, Subhashini. You will be able to hear him. वो बताएंगे क्या करना है. There'll be no doubt in what you're doing, right?
It says exclusion of desire, to the exclusion of desire, right? Same thing of renunciation that we said. The question was that we all desired to come here. We wanted to come here and then we enjoyed. And the answer was that we could have done other things, but we chose to come here, right? But this says we should exclude the desire.
We have to understand the difference between desire and aspiration. Mike,
So said in the Gita, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava.
एक second.
I am desire that is unopposed to karma.
So
This is
beautiful.
the 7th chapter. So whenever you think of desire, remember this. See, because even if the divine has become the world in the first place, he wished to become na sa kamayet. But that is aviruddha from dharma. It is not against dharma, which
Keep
is
it close to your
like
mind.
the underlying thing behind the universe. So, as she said, there's a difference between desire, which is hankering after things. It will agitation and restlessness and feeling कि अगर ये नहीं मिला तो मर जाऊंगा, that sort of things, as opposed to a calm aspiration that no, yes, I must, that way you feel together.
There's a difference between desire and aspiration, basically. There's an aspiration. You wanted to learn more. You wanted to improve your life. So you came here. So you don't have to exclude aspiration. What we have to exclude is desire, but there are times, let's be real. There are times when we cannot exclude desire. We have a desire and I want it. Then Shri Krishna says in the Gita, he's not saying leave it. He's saying, मेरे को दे दो ना. And then do the best that you can to get it. But मेरे को पहले दो तो. पहले मुझे ऑफर तो करो. ये मुझे मिलना चाहिए था. ये मुझे नहीं मिला. अब मुझे गुस्सा आ रहा है. ये उनको करना चाहिए था. उन्होंने नहीं किया. मुझे गुस्सा आ रहा है. पर वो बोलते हैं तुम्हें गुस्सा आ रहा है, ठीक है. मुझे तो याद कर लो. मुझे तो बताओ तुम्हारा पेन क्या है. मुझे तो ऑफर करो. जीवन रूपी यज्ञ है ये. पुरोहितम यज्ञ से उसको पुरोहित बनाओ ना. उसको पुरोहित बनाओ. लेट हिम लीड. और उसको बोलो कि ये मेरे साथ हो रहा है, ये होना चाहिए था. मैं ये अपने अंदर की ये जो खलल है, ये मैं आपको ऑफर करती हूँ. मैं ऑफर करती हूँ मेरी ये डिजायर. एंड देन वेट इन साइलेंस टू हियर द वॉइस. It will speak, but it will only speak in silence. It will not speak otherwise, right? See, a divine will is waiting, seeking to fulfill itself. A divine will is seeking to fulfill itself, and it is for the enlightened individual to aspire for that divine will to flow through his becoming. अगर हम aspire ही नहीं करेंगे कि तेरी क्या मर्जी है मेरे थ्रू होना चाहिए, मैंने तो बता दिया मेरे को क्या चाहिए, बट उससे पूछा तुम्हारी मर्जी मेरे लिए क्या है, because that divine has a will for each one of us. जो circumstance आया है वो आया है क्योंकि my soul had asked for that circumstance. उस circumstance के थ्रू हम बहुत कुछ सीख सकते थे, अपने जीवन को बहुत सुंदर बना सकते हैं, बट उस circumstance के साथ ही खाली हाथापाई करते रहेंगे तो हम कैसे, how will I grow into becoming the right nimitta matram? We have to become his instrument and to be able to see कि ये circumstance तुमने दिया है, इस circumstance के थ्रू मैं क्या सीख सकती हूँ. That is the use of this thought that a divine will is seeking to fulfill itself through each one of us. And it is for our betterment that we seek out to the divine and say, what is thy will for me at this moment? At every moment, his will is changing. So what does that mean? That means that every moment I have to be connected to him, right? This is what the Isha Upanishad promotes. Paragraph 2. There is then declared the justification of works and of the physical life on the basis of an inalienable freedom of the soul, one with the Lord, amidst all the activity of the multiple movement. Works then are justified. Not कि works से भागो, run away from this world as soon as possible, मोक्षा चाहिए. Hello, are we anywhere near कि मोक्ष मिल जाएगा बस, हमको तो बस इस जीवन के बाद मोक्ष. Please become realistic. Have we become so pure, so perfect, such perfect instruments of the divine कि बस अब अगले जन्म तो है ही नहीं, बस इसके बाद मोक्ष है. Let's not live in a dream world. Let's be real. We have to do works. And this Isha Upanishad in the second verse, as does the Gita, again and again justifies works, gives us assurance. The second verse gives us assurance that if you do works like this, tena tyaktena bhunjita. If you are doing works like this work will not stick to you. You will not be bound. Na karma lipyate nare. The karma will not stick to you. You will not get bound. It will not rebound on you. Only if you are doing works, how? Tena tyaktena. This is the finality of the verse 2 that we'll do tomorrow. Finally, again from the book, the verse 3 के बारे में बताया. Finally, the result of an ignorant interference with the right manifestation of the one in the multiplicity is declared to be an involution in states of blind obscurity after death. The third verse states boldly that if works are not done as an offering to the divine, the result will be that there will be an involution of us into blind and obscure worlds of consciousness after death. Death ke baad mein, there are many worlds that the soul moves on to, one after the other. And we will go into blind worlds which are obscure worlds, dark worlds. So we have a chance, we have an opportunity to still work on ourselves and do what the Isha Upanishad is saying, right? Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Now let us try to understand the first movement, the first 3 verses of the Isha Upanishad.
You continue the renunciation and the desire. So even if, for instance, the aspiration is to be here, and for many of us who are not here, that's also that I will be done here. So then there is no restlessness.
Yes.
That which is ordained, by the divine.
Absolutely, the last minute.
And the restlessness, it's here, very good, it's not there.
Absolutely. There can be so many aspirations, not desires. Coming here was an aspiration, but so many people couldn't come last minute. There were 7 cancellations in the last half an hour. So it was for some reason that they couldn't come. One of them had a bad back, one has high blood pressure, one had to travel last minute. So you can't help it. But as you said, there must not be restlessness about it. And but then you can say this is the divine's will. I tried my best, right? Let us do the first verse. Yeah. Isha was midam sarvam yat kinch jagatyam jagat tena yaktena bhunjitha ma gridah kasya svidhanam. Right? The meaning that has been given by Sri Aurobindo. All this is for habitation by the Lord. Whatsoever is individual universe of movement, in the universal motion, by that renounced, thou shouldest enjoy. Lust not after any man's possession. The first verse and the first movement deals with the science and art of life, which is appropriate for every individual. We are given the art of life, art of living, and with the science behind it, and which is very appropriate for each one of us, whatever be our age, because we all need to know what life is and what should be the art of living. The first verse is also the best example of dispense transition. There are 4 parts in this verse and no apparent line of connectivity between the first part and the second part, second and the third and the fourth. Much is implied in each line, which must be understood by the reader. And only if we probe, we can find the links. But fortunately for us, Sri Aurobindo has already probed and explained it all. Sri Aurobindo says that this world and all its concentric movements, you can understand all the time this world is going on like a machine. Brrr, it's going on, so many movements. They are all inhabited by the Lord. God is living inside them. There is a Lord of existence about whom a constant question is raised from time immemorial. Does God exist? This is a supreme question that people have asked throughout history. This Upanishad declares that not only does God exist, but he has become this universe. He has become every atom, every cell, every nucleus, every proton, neutron. He has become this all. And not only has he become all this, he has started inhabiting it and he lives inside himself, right? The first verse reconciles and synthesizes the first set of opposites, God and the world. It tells us that all this idam sarvam is this universe. Now this universe is like a flowing river. आप एक river imagine करिए, and in the river there are eddies. भंवर होती है ना? Now what is the bhavar? Is it different from the river? It is made up of the same water of the river, but there is still a uniqueness in every eddy. This eddy may be small, this eddy may be big, this may be more powerful, this may be weaker, but they are all the river. And yet there is a uniqueness about each eddy, right? So we are those eddies. We are those bhavars, the centrations, unique centrations. And God has become this entire universe. And he's allowed these individualities inside of himself. So he is us, and yet we are unique from each other. And yet we are part of that river, right? Jagatyam Jagat. Our life consists of concentric circles of movement. Jagatyam Jagat means concentric circles. And every little portion of life is like a kind of a circle. And that circle is a part of a bigger circle. And that bigger circle is a part of a greater circle. For example, Subhashini is a center. Around her is her family. Around that family, there is a circle of the society. Around the society is the state, the country, the continent, the earth, the solar system, the expanding galaxies, and the expanding galaxies. Look at the Jagatyam Jagat, how big it is and unending. There is no end to it. And Isha, Isha, God, has become this Jagat and is inhabiting this Jagat. There'll be many repetitions in what I say because we wanted to really percolate into us this thought, right? And this Jagatyam Jagat is Uchit or worthy of habitation by Isha, by God. Not only the vast is inhabited by the Lord, even the minutest is inhabited by the Lord. He is not equally present in all. बोलते ना वो इसमें और आप में equally present है. Wrong. What should be the right word? कोई मुझे सही word बताओ. Very good. He is not equally present in all. He is wholly present in all. All of him is inside Gita. All of him is inside Meera, and all of him is inside an ant, and all of him is inside this table. All of him is inside this water. He is wholly present in all. Purnamada Purnamidam. Purnat Purnamadachyate. Right? As is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. Yatha Brahmande, Tatha Pinde. Now, what does this mean? See, the macrocosm is like a diamond. अगर हम पूरे universe को एक diamond की तरह देखें, तो each facet of that diamond is the pinda, and each facet is the full diamond in itself, because it is part of that whole diamond, right? In essence, each facet is the diamond. Each ray of the sun, in essence, is the sun. And yet it is a different ray, right? Each manifestation is unique. See, the word cosmos. This also I've learned from Anmol. The word cosmos means organization. It is the opposite of chaos. There is complete organization in the cosmos. The sun is in the center and the planets are going around in their own axis. Now the planets are going around in a complete organized fashion. ये नहीं है कि Jupiter आज Earth वाले axis पे आ गया है. There is complete organization. And just look at the human being, the pinda. Now let's look at the pinda. Each one of us is made up of zillions of atoms. Now each atom has zillions of nuclei. एक nucleus, उसके around there are electrons, protons and neutrons. And they're all going around it in an organized fashion. There is a complete organization due to which when we look at our body, how perfectly it is made. The circulatory system, the digestive system, the lungs, the brain. The brain is completely saved by this thick skull. I mean, the design is just unbelievable. And extra of everything. 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 kidneys. He has given us excess of everything. एक खराब हो जाए तो दूसरी चल रही है. I mean, how beautifully we've been designed. So the Brahmanda and the Pinda are all beautifully designed in an absolute organized fashion. Cosmos. Now, in this, when we see the oneness of God and when we see the universe, then we find a kind of a division. It seems to be divided, but it is not divided. It is one and it seems to be divided. Now you can refer to some of the verses maybe. Sri Krishna says in the 20th verse of the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that knowledge by which one can see the indivisible in the divided, that knowledge by which we can see the undivided in this divided universe, that knowledge is sattvic knowledge. He says in chapter 13, verse 17, it's there in your papers. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam eva cha sthitam bhut bhartri cha tajgyeyam grasishnu prabha vishnu cha. He is indivisible and the one, but he seems to divide himself in forms and creatures and appears as all separate existences. All things are eternally born from him. They are upborn in his eternity and taken eternally back into his oneness, right? Just like the eddy, that example will come again and again. They look different, Each eddy is unique, but it is part of that river in essence. I hope the oneness of this transient, temporary, yet real world and God is clear to everyone. Yeah. Now we have to read the footnote from the book, page 3, to understand how Adi Shankara explains Vasyam, because it is a very contrary way in which Adi Shankara has explained it. And it is important for us to know the different thoughts that have prevailed in India, because it takes us on a tangent somewhere else. So we must understand what Adi Shankara, how Adi Shankara has explained Vasyam. I'm reading from the book, page 3. There are 3 possible senses of Vasyam. Vasyam can be explained in 3 ways: to be clothed, to be worn as a garment, and to be inhabited. Now we've understood that Sri Aurobindo is saying Vasyam is used in Isha Upanishad as inhabited. Now, how has Shankara used it? Shankara explains it in another manner, that we must lose the sense of this unreal objective universe in the sole perception of the pure Brahman. Shankara says that you should only be concentrating on Brahman, and you should lose all significance of this universe because it is all unreal. So explained, Sri Aurobindo is saying, the first line becomes a contradiction of the whole thought of the Upanishad, which only teaches reconciliation. By the perception of essential unity of the apparently incompatible opposites, God and the world, renunciation and enjoyment, action and internal freedom, the one and the many, being and its becomings, the passive divine impersonality and the active divine personality, the knowledge and the ignorance, the becoming and the non-becoming, life on earth and beyond, and the supreme immortality. The image is of the world either as a garment or as a dwelling place for the informing and governing spirit. Sri Aurobindo is clearly saying in the end that the idea is either that this world is a garment, or more so it is a dwelling place which the divine inhabits, right, as Purusha. The latter significance agrees better with the thought of the Upanishad. So you see, this contradicts and flies in the face of the general trend that this world is a place where one needs to get out of at the earliest. This whole idea is not very good and true. Adi Shankara has explained Vasyam as clothing, right? Which covers, which veils the truth, which covers the truth of Brahman. And this clothing, he says, should be dispensed of. हटा दो कपड़े को, then you will be able to see the real. But कपड़े को हटा देंगे तो हम जीवन कैसे जिएंगे? हमें तो इसी कपड़े के साथ में जीना है. इस कपड़े को सुंदर करना है, अपनी लाइफ को ब्यूटिफाई करना है, अपनी फिजिकल बॉडी को परफेक्ट रखना है, अपने इमोशंस को वास्ट करना है. नॉट मी माइंड, बट वास्टनेस इन आवर इमोशनल. देयर शुड बी क्लैरिटी इन द माइंड. इन सबको हटा दो, खाली ब्रह्मन पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट करो. कैसे करेंगे with this imperfection? Every part of my being has to be made more and more and more and more perfect, right? So Adi Shankara ka saying that get out of this veil, Sri Aurobindo says that explaining Vasyam as clothing has neither sense nor logic nor correct Sanskrit grammar. Even the grammar does not say that. If spirit and matter were 2 different entities, then Sri Aurobindo writes in the Life Divine, it's a beautiful sentence of Sri Aurobindo, quote, he says, it would then appear that spirit and matter are condemned to one in an uneasy but perpetual wedlock. कि spirit और matter की शादी हो गई है, but they are very uneasy. They are not comfortable with each other. तो जल्दी से जल्दी एक को निकालो और दूसरे को free.
It's transitory. When the matter changes, it's changeable.
Matter is changeable, no doubt. But right now you're living in the matter. And that matter,
It is changing day to day, minute to minute, actually.
yeah, so,
A seed is growing into a sapling
so,
and so on.
so what?
It's changing, it's changeable.
So what?
Matter is changeable, the spirit is perpetual.
So,
So the wedlock is not permanent to that extent.
while you are,
Because the matter eventually fades away.
matter will eventually fade away. Right now we are living in a body. Right now there is a wedlock between your spirit and your body. Now if you're going to reject the body and you say कि हम खाली ब्रह्मन में रहेंगे, तो हम इस body जो हमें मिली है, it was a mistake by God to give you a body. That he should not have given you a body, because the aim of life is to get out of it as fast as possible, get into moksha. So then God made a mistake. And if he's not made a mistake, he's given it with a purpose.
But one has to recognize that it's a wedlock of a permanent and an impermanent.
Exactly. It is a wedlock of a permanent and an impermanent. Both are real. God has become the impermanent. And he's saying that while I'm living inside you, you make use of my presence. I'm there inside you. You make use of me within you, and you make this outside so beautiful. You make your physical healthy, perfect, agile, supple, young. You make your emotional being so beautiful because I am within you. The permanent is within you. Make use, connect, offer to me, and become vaster. You become you become vast and vast and vast. But you can do that only when you are in the body. Because after that, the soul will go into another body. What you've been able to do in this life, in your physical, in your emotional being, and in your mental being, your next life, you will be born with that much perfection. You will start from there. How can we waste our time? ये सब तो impermanent है, not important. तो हम करें क्या फिर? अभी तो जिंदा हैं. हम करें क्या? खाली बैठ के ध्यान करें? ध्यान होएगा ही नहीं, because mind में clarity ही नहीं है. Emotions में vastness ही नहीं है. घुटनों में तो दर्द हो रहा है. तो फिर हम कैसे ध्यान करेंगे? अगर ब्रह्मन में कॉन्सेंट्रेट करना है, जो रियल है, जो परमानेंट है, तो करेंगे तो ध्यान उस इम्पर्मानेंट के हेल्प से. तो इम्पर्मानेंट को सुंदर पर करना है ना. कैसे करें? तेन त्यक्तेन. और तेन त्यक्तेन करने के बाद में बाबा जी नहीं बनना है. भुंजी था, एंजॉय करो. ईशा उपनिषद कह रही है, राइट? सो बोलते हैं कि अगर इट वाज नॉट लाइक दिस, देन दैट इट appears that the spirit and the matter are in a very uneasy wedlock. We have to make it easy. Don't make it an uneasy wedlock. Isha Upanishad, on the contrary, emphasizes the importance of the underlying unity of this manifested phenomena and the eternal immutable reality. Isha Upanishad shows the unity between that which is permanent and that which is impermanent. उन दोनों की unity दिखाता है Isha Upanishad. The impersonal is always inactive, right? But the personality always has a potentiality of action. The being has become. That is why these two words are used by Sri Aurobindo very often. Being and becoming. We are all becomings of him. We are not creations of him. In the Semitic religions, they use the word creation. अल्लाह का creation है, Christ का creation है. तो उसमें क्या होता है? This painting is a creation of the artist. Artist is not here. But here, we are not creations. He has extended himself. Yathornanabhi, you will remember the verse. In Mundaka Upanishad, this is explained so beautifully that the spider, just like the spider makes a web from within himself. Similarly, this creation, God has become this universe. We are all God, but an imperfect, changing, mutable, becoming. But what did he do? He said, ये changing जो world में बन गया हूँ, ये बिना मेरे तो कुछ इसमें होना ही नहीं है. So he came and entered into it. And that is sitting within us. Each one of us has our Krishna, individual Krishna. Can you imagine what he has given to us? And we are that, because next life, अंजलि तो नहीं रहेगी, but ये तो रहेगा. और यही जाएगा दूसरी बॉडी में. तो मैं कौन हूँ? I am that. I am one with that permanent, right? The being has become, he has manifested. And Isha Upanishad is reconciling the being and the becoming. Very simple example. If milk has become paneer, can we say milk is real but paneer is unreal? No, we can't. Milk has become paneer, but there may be a difference of quality, form, नाम रूप change होता है, but essence में क्या है, substance में क्या है, right? The truth is that spirit is permanent, immutable, unchanging. You are right, it is Akshara. And the manifestation of cosmos is impermanent, transient, changeable, Kshara. But being transient, being impermanent, being mutable does not make us unreal. We are not an illusion, right? This world is a movement of the spirit in itself. Now, what has the spirit done? The spirit has become first the container. And in the container, he first created a container. And in the container, he manifested himself. Inside himself only. He is Isha. He is master of the universe. Therefore, everything belongs to him. Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kinch jagatyam jagat. In the concentric circles, he is everywhere. This is the basic thought and premise, and the art of life flows from it. What is the art of life? Rishi Yagyavak answers in the second line. We've already spoken about it, but we will speak about it again and again and again, that it just becomes us. What is the art of life? Rishi Yagyavak says in the second line, Tena Tyaktena. And Sri Aurobindo explains that Tena Tyaktena does not mean giving up. It does not mean, when he uses the word renunciation, it does not mean giving up. It means offering. Renouncing means offering the thought, the emotion, and the action to God and inviting him into all the three. And through this offering or renunciation, Isha Upanishad says, Bhunjitha. Bhunjitha, which means that we must learn to enjoy. Again, I'm saying we don't have to become Babaji. We must learn to enjoy as well. One doesn't have to renounce home. One doesn't have to renounce family. One does not have to renounce enjoyment. In fact, one of the four gods who we have to please, because only then we can enter into Surya Savitri. I've given to you all. We'll come to it after we finish the first verse. So one of the four gods or personalities is, so there is Varuna, Mitra, Ariman, and Bhaga. And only when these four personalities have been pleased, and how do they get pleased? How do these gods get pleased? When we become like them. When we propitiate them, invite them into our being and become like them. We'll talk about it at the end of this verse, before we close the session. So while living in the world, after offering all our actions to Isha or God, we must learn to enjoy. We must not covet. Now, there's the last part of the first verse. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha ma grida kasya svidhanam. We must not yearn to possess what belongs to another. Everything belongs to whom? Everything belongs to him. And when we offer to him, what happens is, what he's trying to say is that if you are in that state of consciousness where you've become vast, we talked about Varuna, the god of vastness. When we become vast, then we enjoy what is possessed by the other because there is no other. So somebody has this. I don't have it, but I enjoy it in her enjoyment. I'm happy in her enjoyment. I'm happy in his enjoyment because I have become vast. And that is the god Varuna. When we propitiate Varuna, when we pray to him, we try to become Varuna, then what happens? We become vast. And what is the importance of vastness? Let me put it here. You've heard the words Sukha and Dukha. Now, Kha is the common in both, right? Su is good and Do is bad. Everybody knows Dushasan, Duryodhan. Everything evil, bad is Du. And everything good, Suniti, Sushila. Everything good is Su. दैट मीन्स कि अगर हमारा ख सु है तो हमें क्या एक्सपीरियंस होगा? सुख, हमें सुख एक्सपीरियंस होगा। अगर हमारा ख दु है, खराब है, तो हमें दुख एक्सपीरियंस होगा। ख क्या है? तो फिर इसमें सबसे जरूरी बात क्या हो गई? सु और दु तो सबको मालूम है, ख क्या है? In our in our Hindi, Sanskrit language, every letter has a meaning. Kha is vastness. Khaga, the bird that flies in the vast. Khagol, all the words with kha will show vastness. जब हमारा vastness सु हो जाएगा तो हमें अपने आप सुख का experience होगा. Such is the importance of vastness. Why is vastness important? Because तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजिता मा गृधः कस्य स्विधनम. Do not yearn to possess and covet what is somebody else's. Now suppose somebody else has taken something that is yours, that you think should have been yours. It's taken now. That is his. Enjoy it. Enjoy it in his enjoyment. Why? कब तक? खाली झगड़ते 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 जीवन निकल जाएगा. Enjoy it in his enjoyment. And then everything, the whole,
And the most difficult thing in life, I think, is to be happy for others.
but
It's very, very difficult.
I know, but we are not. But who said that this path is meant for the weak? This path is not meant for the weak. This path is meant for those who are strong. Shurasya dhara, you will know the verse. That if you're following this path, you're walking on the edge of a sword. But you've chosen the path, right? You can always step out.
So saying that to be happy in the happiness of others is not so easy. So the solution is given by the Isha Upanishad in the 7th verse, where it says that there is no other. Ekatvam anupashyatah. So if that somebody whom you are thinking as somebody is nobody but you, then obviously his happiness or her happiness is your happiness.
When we do verses 6 and 7, they are like mantras. They are very important mantras. Just those two mantras, they lead you towards oneness. And if you go on practicing or chanting those mantras and trying to practice and understand them, the oneness becomes much more easier. So, there is no other than him. All is then, when we have become vast, there is no other. All is possessed by such a person. Such a person will feel very happy because all is possessed by that person, because that person is as wide as the world. And when we reach a state of consciousness of complete wideness, vastness, oneness, and unity, we will realize that all in the world is anyway possessed by us. Everything that exists around us and in the world, without lusting to grab or possess, Ma grida kasya svidhanam.
No, it's the lust, is it?
Ma greed.
The word comes from the same root.
And we should not try to deny ourselves anything. When we admit that all belongs to the Lord and we have offered all our desires to the Lord, the very act of renunciation, of offering, gives us the capacity also to enjoy everything. But wo offer, sincere offering honi chahiye, right? And this is the second pair of opposites, renunciation and enjoyment. Renounce karke bhi enjoy kiya. Psychologically, a difficulty arises when we renounce. And what is the difficulty? We tend to become inactive. जब हमको रिजल्ट से मतलब ही नहीं है, मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा उसके ऊपर है, तो मैं काम ही क्यों करूं? Because acquisition, possession, enjoyment are our normal tendencies. And जब acquire ही नहीं करना है, तो the moment we are told कि renounce करो, offer back करो, we tend to become inactive. And a very wrong idea has arisen in many cultures, including India, that becoming an ascetic and renouncing our household, joining a monastery is the best thing to do. Give up one's responsibility, come out of the mess of life. अब बच्चे बड़े हो गए हैं, सब अपना अपना करेंगे. And you know that tamasic renunciation, not good. हमने क्यों छोड़ा? क्योंकि हमारे हाथ में था ही नहीं. वो तो हमारी सुनते नहीं है तो छोड़ ही दो. क्यों? ऐसे क्यों नहीं छोड़े कि हमारे घर में लड़के बहू हैं, उनकी जो मर्जी है वो लोग कर रहे हैं, लेट देम ग्रो, एंड हम भी ग्रो कर रहे हैं, हमारी लाइफ है, आई एम हैप्पी इन देयर हैप्पीनेस. देयर इज अ डिफरेंस इन द रिनंसिएशन, right? There has to be sattvic renunciation, not tamasic renunciation. And we don't need to leave home and one's body to chant God's name. God's name can be chanted right here and now. And to prevent this misunderstanding, Sri Krishna is given in that very famous verse, verse 47, which everybody knows, verse 47 in chapter 2. Karmanyevadi karase ma phaleshu kadachana. This everybody understands. कि खाली फल के ऊपर, फल को छोड़ दो, बिकॉज फल के ऊपर अपना कोई अधिकार नहीं है, खाली कर्म के ऊपर है. बट इन द सेकेंड लाइन ही सेज माँ कर्म फल हेतुर्भूर्मा ते संगो स्व कर्मणि, कि you have a right to action, but only to action, never to its fruits. Okay. But what happens is, let not the Sri Krishna knew that when he tells us to let go of the fruits of our action, what will happen? We may tend to give up the action also. So in the second line, he says, let there be in you no attachment to inactivity. Don't become inactive. And through many verses in the Gita, Sri Krishna has given so much importance to karma or actions. The third and fourth chapters talk so much about the karma yoga. And I promised to speak about Bhaga and the god of enjoyment before. So if you can turn your pages to, so if you see the drawings that are the PPT that has been given, in the center is Surya Savitri, and around Surya Savitri, which is the divine's will, right? What is the aim of our life? We decided the aim of life is to reach Surya Savitri, to know what is the divine's will for me at every moment. But how do we reach Surya Savitri? We can reach Surya Savitri only when we have propitiated the four gods who are sentinels around him. The first god is Varuna, the god of vastness. And then we have already talked about vastness, Kha, that we have to become vaster and vaster. Second god is Mitra, the god of friendship. Vastness and friendship will go together. If we become vast, we'll obviously become friendly. If we become friendly, we have to become vast. See? So god of vastness, Varuna, then Mitra, god of friendship, and then Aryaman, god of intense tapasya, intense work, hard work. And finally, there is Bhaga, god of enjoyment. It is only when we have propitiated these four gods, become as wide as Varuna, friendly with all as Mitra, done hard work, intense hard work, and after all this, we have learned to enjoy, then we will arrive at Surya Savitri. And only then will we know the divine's will, or the divine will flow through us. And only then we will become his nimitta matra. Right? So before closing for the day, let us read together the first verse.
Ishavasyamidam sarvam
Ishavasyamidam sarvam
yatkincha jagatyam jagat
yatkincha jagatyam jagat
tena tyaktena punjita magritha kasya svidhanam
Magridah kasya svidhanam
kurvanneveha karmani
kurvanneveha karmani
jijivishe shatam samaha
jijivishe chatam samaha
evam tvayi nanyatetosti
evam tvayi nanyatetosti
na karma lipyate nare
na karma lipyate nare
asurya namate loka
asuryanamate loka
andhena tamasavritaah
andhena tamasavritaha
तामे प्रीत्याभिगच्छन्ति
तांसे प्रेत्याभिगच्छन्ति
ये के चात्महनो जना
ये केचात्महनो जनाः. 1 minute of silence and gratitude to God